Okay, so I have some exams that were not picked up or quizzes, grades, stuff that people didn't pick up. I got those to return. And then we'll look at what you should study for the exam. It looks like none of the people that didn't get the exams are here. Ramsea, Carly Brewer, what? She told you to pick it up? Can I see that note again? Carly Brewer, Matthew Trecker. These are. Or Shia, and you want to pick up stuff for Ramsea, is that right?
Yeah. She told me in person.
Okay. I'm assuming that her earlier email or whatever it is that you showed me, it still isn't valid, is in effect, so I'll go ahead and let you take that. Shanti Burns? Not here, okay. All right, so I still have those things not picked up from people. Oh, nothing is showing, okay. Hmm. 101 is not showing up. No, there it is. Okay. Really? Hmm. Okay. It's not showing up. Oh, come on. Oh, there you go. Okay. All right, just took a while. All right, so today is the very last day of classes. After today, the class will not meet except for the final exam. So other than for the final exam, we are pretty much all done for the semester. Sorry. Okay, so let's look at what we need to study for the final. So I posted, and let me just point out what I have already posted. So if you haven't looked at what I posted, you might want to go ahead and look at what I posted. So okay, so if you go to Brightspace, I have not posted all your grades yet because I'm always running behind schedule, grading things, and I'm really reluctant to just have the an Excel upload from my Excel spreadsheet up to the Brightspace, because I'm afraid something will get slightly off, and then somebody's grades will reflect somebody else's grades or something like that. So I don't auto upload. So then I have to manually upload everything. So I have not been uploading things since midterm. Now I'm gonna try to upload things before the final exam, but you know, it's, I'm still grading your lab final exam and making up exams and so on. So, I'm not sure that I'll get everything uploaded. But what I'll tell you is, I think I emailed an announcement. So the announcement said that I will email you individually to your individual email addresses, every single last point that you've earned on everything all semester long. And the rules of my syllabus say that you drop your lowest quiz grade, which the Brightspace can do. It also says that your lowest exam grade gets replaced by the final exam grade if your final exam grade is higher, which I don't think Brightspace can do. I asked a Brightspace representative and they said they can't do that. It also won't do things like taking the averages of your own average and cross multiplying with the class's average, which is what I do. But Brightspace doesn't have a way of doing that. So that means I would have to do all of that manually and input it into my Excel spreadsheet. And then for me to get it into Brightspace, I would have to manually input every single last grade, which takes a lot of time. So what I'll do is I will take, and then there's a certain time when Brightspace will not allow you to continue to look at the Brightspace. There's a deadline pretty close to the end of the semester, about the time that I submit grades, when you will not be able to get into Brightspace. So I'm going to go ahead and email you. I sent an announcement that I will email you your section of the Excel spreadsheet. So it'll have on there, it should have on there your original. I don't know that I would send out, I think I probably should. What I usually do for my Excel spreadsheet is there's the original grade and there's the revised grade after I average in for your missing excused absence quizzes and exams. And then if you did better on the final exam than you did on one of the exams during the semester, I will replace that. And I usually put it in the column next to it so you can see the original grade and the grade that I replaced it by. So then you would be able to tell what got replaced. It's not like I randomly went in there and just started adding points here, right and left for no reason. We're following the rules of my syllabus when I replace your lowest exam grade by the final exam. So I will, and usually what I do for that is I'll have like a color coding. So you'll see what got replaced. It'll have a green color or red color or something like that. So you can tell what got replaced by the final exam. So I'm not just willy-nilly going in there and just replacing exam grades for no reason. I'm replacing an exam grade that is the lowest exam grade that you had by the final exam. So I will email you that individually. Okay, and I'll try to input all the grades that you have so far. However, here's the thing. I've returned every exam that you've taken all semester long, every quiz that you've taken all semester long. You should have it in your possession. So you should be able to see your own grades. I also posted the average of all the quizzes and all the exams when I returned your quizzes. So you should have all of that information. So if you're one of these people that has to have an average grade, then you can look at the average of the class on the day so that you have an idea of what the average grade would be. Sometimes some people drop the course during the semester, so I don't think there's a lot of people that did that in this class. But if they do, then usually the grade goes up, the average goes up higher, but the average does not go lower. So it would be at least the average that I posted when I went over it in class. So I will submit that to you. And so I think I emailed you that if you don't want your grades emailed back, that you should email back that you don't want your grades emailed. If you email me that you don't want your grades emailed to you, then I can send it to you hard copy or something. But I will. If you don't request that I send it to you by email, I will just send you all your grades, a piece of my Excel spreadsheet by email. Okay, so our final exam in this class, so I'm not going to cover any new material. We covered enough, actually. We covered quite a bit since our exam number 3. We actually basically covered 2 chapters after exam 3. But so today is, let me see my document camera here. Okay, so today is the 25th. And our final exam, and tomorrow is reading day. And our final exam for this class is on Monday, May 1st. It goes from 8:30 to 11 a.m. I did not set the final exam schedule. The final exam schedule was there since the beginning of the semester. It's also on your syllabus since the beginning of the semester, so that date has not changed. I think none of the people in this class are graduating seniors, I believe. Is that correct? I don't think anybody in this class is a graduating senior. I have a list of graduating seniors that I got from the faculty senate. So if I don't see your name on that list, then I will not try to get your grades in by the 3rd. I'll just have to get all your grades in by 9 a.m. So this class will get all the grades done, completed by 9 a.m. and not by 9 a.m. on May the 8th, and not by 9 a.m. on May the 3rd, because I got a lot of people in my organic class that are in the senior category, so I have to get their grades in. So then let's look at what we do need to study for our final exam. So my suggestion is, and so let's take a look at what I have posted. So if you look on Course Home, and I started doing this because one of your colleagues is sick, and I was requested by the provost to post the lecture videos. So I have posted lecture videos for that person. And of course, I just posted it for everybody since I had to make it up anyway. Okay, so if you look at Course Home, I sent out an announcement that all the videos have been posted and all the PowerPoints have been posted. So if you look in PowerPoints, you've already been looking at the PowerPoints. Those are all posted already. But if you go down to videos, lecture videos, I've been posting lecture videos after I was requested to post lecture videos. So last, I guess about 2 weeks or so, I've been posting lecture videos. So you can go on there and you'll see the entire content of my entire lecture. I had the wireless issue on the 13th, so I had to re-record that. I recorded it from home, but other than that, all the other lectures are exactly the same lectures that I went over in class. So you should be able to look at those. If you miss something, you can go in there and look at it. And of course, everybody knows that I post the PowerPoints. I hope you know, but that I post the PowerPoints. And I also post all of the exam answer keys. So if you look at the exam, wow, really slow. So if you look at the exam answer keys, so you can look in here. So there's the PowerPoint. And then here are the exam keys. So if you look in the exam keys, I have all the answer keys for all the exams. Now, my suggestion to you is, if you have no time at all to study, I would say study the previous quizzes and exams. Make sure you can do the material that shows up on previous quizzes and exams. Except for the material after exam number 3, which didn't have any quizzes associated with it and didn't have any exams associated with it, I would say if you can do everything that showed up on previous quizzes and exams, you're in good shape. Does this mean that I'm going to take a question out of exam number 1, exactly the same question, and slap it on the final exam? I will not. Does this mean I'll take a question out of exam number 3, put the exact same long answer question, and slap it on the final exam? No. Will I do that for the multiple choice? Yes, I will. So let's take a look at what the multiple choice, what I would do for the multiple choice. And I think I've been saying this a couple of times, but I think some people missed what I said. So on the multiple choice, oh, did I bring a sign-in sheet? I did not, did I? Oh, okay. Let me just send this a sheet of paper around, and you just print your name on there so I know who came. I'll just say print name. Today is April the 24th, 25th. Okay, so just print your name when the sign-in sheet comes around. I forgot to bring the normal sign-in sheet today. So what will we have on the multiple choice part? So on the multiple choice, what I will do is, there's a delay between what shows up on my computer screen and what I have in live time. So it's always hard for me to come up with. Okay, so the multiple choice will be identical to multiple choice on exam 1, exam 2, exam 3. Plus may have new multiple choice on material after exam 3. Okay, so they will be identical. I will not change the wording of the multiple choice. It'll be pretty much the same. Now, do note that between the different forms of the exams, I scrambled the multiple choice choices so that if you had form A, question number 1 might have been question number 5 on form B, but they were the same questions. So these will be scrambled. So if you memorize that the answer to question number 1 on multiple choice on exam number 1 is A, you will not see that. The other thing is the final exam is only going to be an hour exam. So final will be 1 hour. I know we have actually like 2.5 hours or something like that for the final exam, but it takes me forever to grade these exams. I'm kind of time crunched. So your final exam will only be an hour exam. It should only take you about an hour to complete the exam. So that means that out of each multiple choice, I'll take maybe 3 or 4 questions. Out of each exam. So each exam usually had like 7 or 8 questions on the multiple choice. I'll only take 3 or 4 of those, maybe even 2 out of each exam's multiple choice. So it will not include all of the multiple choice questions. It'll include only a few. And the ones that I choose will generally be of the sort of thing that you should leave the class knowing. If you took general chemistry, you should, if you took general chemistry 2, these are things that you should know at the end of the class. So these are like general, broad kind of things and not like nitpicky minor memorization kind of things. So it'll be that kind of multiple choice question that I will choose out of the multiple choice questions that are in the on your exams. So if you got back your exam, you have all the multiple choice questions in your possession. If you didn't get your exam or if you missed the exam, the answer keys are all posted so you can actually look at the multiple choice on the other exams. So then what about the short answers and long answers? So this is where somebody in my organic chemistry class was glaring at me. I think she was trying to convince me that by glaring at me, which never works, that I should make all the questions on the final exam the same as showed up on previous. That's not going to happen. And glaring at me will not result in a change in, how I do the final exam. So the short answer and long answer will not be the same. I'll make sure that they're not the same. I will change the thing around. It will not be the same question. They'll be similar. It'll be similar in the way that, you take a quiz and then you take the exam and you're asked a similar question. So it might be an ice problem, but it's an ice problem for a different reaction. It might be on the quiz, you had an ice problem where you were given the value of Ka and the value of X. And then on the exam, you might be given a question where you're supposed to solve for Ka or something like that. It will not be the same question. So the idea here is you have to understand how to do the problem. You'll get a similar kind of problem. So if you know how to do that kind of problem, you should be fine. But don't just put on your 3x5 cards the answers to the stuff that showed up on old exams and expect to see the same thing. And some people do this. They'll see the question, they'll see it similar to the question that I asked on the exam, and then they'll just write out the answer. It's the wrong answer because I didn't ask that question. But some people will think that I'm actually asking the exact same question. I will not ask exactly the same question. So short answers and long answers will not be the same. But my suggestion is if you can do the short answers and long answers that showed up on previous exams, exam 1, 2, and 3, and if you can do most of the questions on the quizzes were all short answer, long answer type. So if you can do the material that showed up on previous quizzes, I almost guarantee that you will do 80% or higher. I almost guarantee that. But when I say, I mean, for you to understand this stuff, be able to do that type of problem, it doesn't mean I'm going to ask you the exact same question that I asked on exam number 3 and it shows up on the final exam. It will not. Okay, so what kind of stuff would you have on the long answers and short answers? So here's some things that I looked through this stuff. I looked through all of your exams and looked at the kind of questions that I had given on the long answers. Oh, one other thing. So we had covered before exam number 3, I think I covered everything except for the Thermo 2 chapter and the electrochemistry chapter. So what kind of stuff could I ask you about the Thermo chapter? I'm going to give you specific homework problem numbers from the Thermo chapter that you should be able to do. So it'll be that type of problem. Once again, it won't be the same problem, but it'll be that type of problem. So, Thermo 2, we did actually have Thermo 1 at the beginning of this semester. I thought we had it in General Chemistry 1, but no, we had actually had it at the very beginning of this semester, chapter 5. So the Thermo 2 chapter, you should, there are specific questions that I expect people to be able to do. And I could ask maybe 1 or 2 multiple choice questions on the last couple of chapters. Let me actually go over the what should show up on the long answer before we get to the specific homework problem that I think you should be able to do. Okay, so what kind of stuff can you get on the long answer question? So you could be asked one of these Q is equal to MC delta T kind of questions. So, you know, the long answer will be a word problem-y kind of thing. And you probably will not be given the Hess's law, not Hess law. It won't be in the long answer. I could put it in a part of a short answer, but I don't think I will give you a Hess's law problem on the long answer. You should be able to do stuff like the boiling point depression, freezing point, elevation, these kinds of problems that involve this kind of equation. Oh, okay, so the wireless is out, so you can't see what I'm putting on my computer. It says AirPlay is looking for TV. It says AirPlay is off. Okay, here's. The wireless on my laptop is connecting. It's just not connecting to the projector for some reason. Come on. It'll probably take a while and then it'll show up, I think. It shows that I am, what's it saying? Looking for TV is what it's saying. I wonder if it helps if I actually stand right next to the projector. Except if I stand right next to the projector, it probably block the screen. Oh, didn't ask me for a code, but then it shows up again. Oh, well. Okay, so equations that involve, you know, word problem-y kind of things that involve these kinds of equations. You know, you've seen that on old exams and quizzes. So you want to be able to do that type of problem. So what else could I have on the long answers? So I would say rate law from, let's see, let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so what I did basically is I looked at old exams and I looked at what kind of stuff I had on the long answers. So the kind of questions that I had on long answers. Okay, so this is the Q is equal to MC delta T, that kind of problem. That's reasonable to expect. Calculating molality is part of freezing point depression. So here, that was exam 1. Okay, here's exam 2 long answers. If you look at exam 2 long answers, I've got the freezing point depression kind of problem. So, you know, that's a reasonable thing to expect. Some sort of an ice problem is reasonable to expect. So that's exam number 2. Exam number 3. Ice problem, buffer, that's reasonable. Ice problem, KSP, that's reasonable. So those are reasonable questions to expect. Now, what I looked at some of your quizzes, and I had asked you some rate law questions that I thought probably were not going to show up on the quiz. So if you look at the on your quiz, and I printed it out and then it came out looking kind of really dark. So the kind of question where I ask you for the Hess's law, that probably is not going to show up. So that probably is not something that I would worry too much about. Doing the VSE-PRT, it's possible. If I do ask for VSE-PRT, I will provide you with the VSE-PRT chart. But what sort of looked a little, and I don't know why I lost quiz 1 and quiz 2, the original, but I don't have it anymore. But stuff like this rate law problem probably will not show up on the exam. Probably will not show up on the final exam. And so I would not expend a great deal of effort trying to understand how to do this kind of problem. Now, it could show up as maybe a short answer problem, where it's more recognition and where it's not where you actually have to do the algebra to do the problem. More like a recognition of how you handle this type of problem. That is possible. And then this also, the rate law, the integrated rate law problem, this down here where you're given, this is more of either a multiple choice question or a short answer kind of question. This is not going to be a long answer problem. It's impossible for me to make up a long answer problem about this. But freezing point depression, perfectly reasonable to have as a long answer problem. Okay, so that's the same quiz, different version. An ice problem, you're going to get an ice problem. I guarantee you will get an ice problem. Which exact kind of ice problem will you get? I don't know. I haven't decided yet. But you will get an ice problem. You absolutely will. Most likely one where you start out with 0 of something and then you produce something. So that's probably, you will see a nice problem. Now, so if you look at last exam number 3, a lot of people did not do very well. So on that part of the exam, and I don't understand why. Because I had almost the exact same thing on your quiz. And people didn't do that badly on that part of the quiz. But you sort of, a lot of you messed up that part. And this was in a short answer format. So I had this on the exam. So I gave you the concentration of concentrated nitric acid. This is exam number 3. I gave you the concentration of concentrated nitric acid. And then I asked you a series of questions. So I asked, what's the concentration of H3O plus? The same as the concentration of the acid, because that's, oh, the lights are on. So this series of questions showed up almost the same question, just with different numbers and with a different molecule. It was on your quiz, that series of questions. I just used HA, where HA is a strong acid, instead of nitric acid. But almost that same series of questions was on your quiz. So I don't know why some people did not do well on that, because it was on the quiz. And I don't remember people doing horrible on this part. You might have actually looked at, I think I changed the question a little bit. So instead of asking for what is the POH, I asked for concentration of OH minus, and that just threw people off, I think. So, but anyway, it'll be, your final exam will be similar to the exam in the way that this exam, this quiz was similar to what showed up on your exam. So the idea is you have to understand what you're doing. You just don't just say, oh, the first number you take the log of, and then the second number you take the negative log of, and then the third number you subtract from 14. You actually have to understand what it is that you're doing, and then you should be fine. But it'll be that similar kind of problem. Okay, so what else did I have on my stuff that could show up on the long answer thing? So the rate law kind of problem where I ask you to, I give you rates, rate 1 divided by rate 2 is equal to concentration of A divided by concentration of A for the first condition and concentration of A under the second condition. One of those kinds of rate law problems. I don't anticipate that you would get that kind of problem. This could be more of a recognition, multiple choice. It can't be multiple choice because it was already on an earlier exam, so it's not going to be multiple choice. It could be perhaps a short answer. More of a recognition type rather than where you actually have to do where you have to actually do the math and algebra to come up with the answer. The integrated rate law. Integrated rate law where it says something like you plot natural log of concentration of A versus time. You know, that kind of thing. That would be more like a short answer problem. It can't be multiple choice because unless I already put it on an earlier multiple choice, it's not going to be a new multiple choice question. Could be a short answer problem, but it will not be a long answer problem. Not long answer. Okay, so what is likely to be a long answer problem? I can guarantee that you will get a nice problem. You will definitely get a nice table on the final exam. So there are various kinds of ice tables. I can have an equilibrium constant ice table. I can have a pH ice table. I can have a buffer ice table. I can have a KSP ice table, or I can have a Henderson-Hasselbalch or buffer. So there are various kinds of ice tables that I can ask you, but there will be a ice table on the final. And then so on the short answers, you can go back and look at all the short answers that I had on previous exams. And as I said, I could take a long answer and convert it into a short answer question. But one of the things that I would suggest that you do is I would suggest that you look at homework 16.2, 16.3, 16.4, homework 4.8. And why do I have a homework that's out of chapter 4? Because that was part of the redox questions where you had to come up with the oxidation states of elements and oxidation states of particular molecules. So that was from that. And then homework 17.1, but only for the redox, balancing the redox reaction for something like this. So let's look at those homework problems and see what I mean by homework problems that I want you to be able to do. Okay, so let's look at chapter 16 and look at which homework problems those are. So I hope you've written down the homework problems that I want you to look at on material after exam number 3. Now, will the final exam have more emphasis on material after exam number 3? No. It'll be pretty much evenly distributed from all semester long. And I would say the number one thing to do is to study the old exams. The number 2 things to do is to study the old quizzes and make sure you can do those things. And then the homework problems that I mentioned here, because the last 2 chapters were not on an old exam or quiz. So then I can't refer you to a quiz problem. So this chapter, the Thermo 2 chapter, and the number of multiple choice questions that I would get on material after exam number 2 would be like maybe 1 or 2. So it's not going to be a lot. So I would not expend a great deal of effort trying to get all the kinds of questions that you could end up with on the Thermo 2 on multiple choice. It's not going to be there very much. Okay, so I would say don't worry about this kind of homework problem. I will not ask this. This is not one of the questions that I would ask you. So don't worry about homework 16.1. However, I could ask you homework 16.2. So this is where I give you the delta H, I give you the delta S, and then I ask you what is delta G. I give you the temperature and I ask you what's delta G. And then is the reaction spontaneous? If it's negative, it's spontaneous. So there's the answer for how you do that kind of problem. It's already on the PowerPoint. Okay, so what about homework 16.3? This is where I asked you to calculate, given delta GF and delta HF and S0, I asked you to calculate delta G and delta H and delta S. I will not ask you all 3 because that'll just take too long. So, but I could ask you one where I ask you to do one of those, and that actually uses this equation. And then homework 16.4, this is one where I give you delta G, or I give you where you're supposed to calculate delta G. Oh, goes out again. It says looking for airplay. It says airplay off, looking for TV. Airplay off. It won't even let me shut it off. It says looking for TV. Airplay is off. It looks like it's on. It looks like it's on when I look at it on my laptop. It's not showing up. And I stop it, and I'll try to yeah, okay. So this kind of problem, you know, if I ask you this, I probably won't make you do both the delta G and calculating K. It would be more like I give you delta G and then you just calculate K. It could be more like a short answer kind of problem. So, you know, something like this would be reasonable to ask. So that is the 16.4. And on the next chapter, the last chapter that I covered, the electrochemistry chapter, I'm saying you should be able to do homework 4.8 and homework 17.1. So what's 4.8? So that's where I asked you to come up with the oxidation states for a couple of, so this is the homework 4.8. So this is where I ask you for the oxidation states of the following elements and compounds. So element in its most stable form is 0 oxidation state, 0 oxidation state. AlCl3, the aluminum is +3 because it's in group 3. Chloride is -1 because it's in group 7. 7 minus 8 gives you -1. Oxygen is -2, and then you have to actually calculate the oxidation state of phosphorus. So that's kind of review. But then I think we went over balancing the redox reaction. So homework 17.1, which is what I said I would hold you responsible for on the final exam, is one where you balance the redox reaction. But I'm going to say this type of balancing the redox reaction, the aluminum and copper, and not the iron and the manganese oxide. Because if you do the iron manganese oxide, you have to balance oxygen by adding water, and then you have to balance the hydrogen by adding H+, which is a kind of a long process. So I'd say balancing the redox reaction like this type of redox reaction. So you should be able to balance this type of redox reaction, and then that's all I would ask. So not actually balancing this type of redox reaction. And where could I put that? Probably not a long answer, probably more like a short answer problem or something like that. Okay, so that is the end of what I would expect people to know for the final exam. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about something they don't know how to do that they'd like me to go over before the final exam? And what you're allowed on the final exam is you're allowed to have 4 3x5 cards, both sides. So I would suggest that you go ahead and bring your 3x5 cards from exam 1, 2, and 3 if you still have them in your possession, and then just come up with a new one for material after exam number 3. And then I think that should help. I don't think you really need like a whole sheet like I'm allowing my organic chemistry class to do, because I've seen people with a 3x5 card that basically had nothing much on it, because, I give you a lot of equations on the actual exam itself, so I don't think you really need a whole lot. Okay, any questions about anything? You want me to go over balancing redox reactions or anything like that? Everybody knows what they need to study for the exam? Okay, and if you had an excused absence and you didn't tell me that you had an excused absence, you might want to tell me before the end of the semester, because I know some of you actually had like a university-wide email that went out that's fine, but some of you had might have been missing some things and not told me why you were missing things. If you told me nothing, then what's going to happen is it's just going to turn into zeros. So if you have an excuse for missing something, please tell me. Otherwise, it's going to be zeros. So it says on my syllabus that I will let you drop 1 quiz without any excuse at all. On 1 exam, without any excuse at all, I will replace a 0 that you earned by not taking it by the final exam grade. If you took all of your quizzes, then your lowest exam grade will get replaced by the final exam. So if you had an excuse and you need to tell me, please let me know, so you don't end up with with a ding in the grade for an excused reason. Okay, so I think we'll end a little early today. If you have any questions about anything that you don't understand, please ask now. You don't want to wait until the final exam and then find you don't know how to do something. Okay, all right, so we'll just end a little early.